Today, we're going to talk about the topic of the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. This chapter is in the Lotus Sutra. Surely, we've all chanted it before, haven't we? In the Lotus Sutra, there is a very strange chapter. The chapter of Never Disparaging. The story tells of a time long ago when there was a Bodhisattva named Never Disparaging. We use the word Bodhisattva as a tribute to those with a mind for the way, but at that time, he was not yet a great Bodhisattva with spiritual powers and transformations. But for some karmic reason, he had this very strange practice. He would greet everyone he met with a bow and say a particular phrase. What phrase was it? Everyone here probably knows already, right? Is there anyone who doesn't know? Anyone who doesn't know is probably a bit lazy about coming to the temple. Yes, a bit lazy about coming to the temple. You see, he had a very strange practice. He didn't preach the Dharma. He didn't do great things. He only did one very strange thing. Whenever he went out and met someone, he would bow and say one sentence, "I dare not disparage you. For you will all become Buddhas." When he said that sentence, what did people think he was? What did they think? They thought he was mentally ill. They thought he just escaped from a psychiatric hospital. But unexpectedly, that was a very strange bodhisattva practice, a bodhisattva practice that no one had ever seen before. He met everyone with respect and instilled in them a hope. And it wasn't just some vague hope. He himself saw very clearly that every single person before him could become a Buddha. And so he went around saying this to everyone, but many people didn't understand, didn't agree, weren't pleased. They thought one of two things: one, that he was mentally ill, or two, that he was just joking around. But now, that story is recorded in the Lotus Sutra, and when we chant that chapter, we chant it with the deepest respect. That chapter was included in the Great Lotus Sutra, and many temples chant it daily. When I became a monk, it was the same. As a child, when I first entered the temple, I also had to chant the Lotus Sutra every single day. Because of that, the chapter of Never Disparaging had to be chanted over and over again. In my temple, the venerable monks had also made a vow to chant the Lotus Sutra. Every day they would chant a chapter, then another chapter, so we just chanted it over and over and over again, all year round. I memorized it. Later, I gave a lecture series on the Lotus Sutra, but that particular chapter of Never Disparaging often leaves a question in people's minds. The question is, for what reason would a bodhisattva meet everyone and say that one sentence, a sentence that almost everyone who heard it simply did not understand? Let's imagine for a moment, right now. Let's imagine there is a person, because at that time he was practicing as a bodhisattva, he didn't wear the formal saffron robe, he wore ordinary lay clothes like everyone else. Now let's imagine we meet a lay person who comes up to us looking completely sincere, not joking at all, and says, "I believe that in the future you will become a Buddha. I believe that you will become a Buddha." Would we find that realistic? Would we? No. We wouldn't find it realistic, would we? And why not? Because we see for ourselves. We know our own ordinary lot in life. We see how many heavy karmic ties still bind us. And we see that our hearts are still so deluded, so full of afflictions. And yet, someone comes and tells us that we will become a Buddha. So we find that unrealistic, right? Unrealistic. And so we don't believe it. And precisely because we see it as unrealistic, because we don't believe it, we think that the person who said that to us, who gave us that hope, seems to have a mind that's what? Not quite normal, right? Not normal. But in truth, it wasn't that he wasn't normal. It was that he saw something very clearly that no one else saw. And because of that, he said something strange that no one could understand. The thing that he saw so clearly, we do not see. This right here, this is realization in Buddhism. And his realization was at an early stage. At the time, he was the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. He had just reached the first stage of sainthood, the fruit of a stream enterer, but it had already opened a Dharma eye for him, allowing him to see something truly strange. His words. Today, when we hear them, do we understand? Now, do we understand? We understand, right? Because we've been taught so much by the venerable monks. For example, when we go to temples, we sometimes see this sentence on the walls. "I am a Buddha already accomplished. All of you are Buddhas yet to be." The Buddha said that. It has the Buddha's authority, the Buddha's guarantee. So we feel assured. Or we hear the venerable monks teach from the scriptures that all sentient beings possess what? Buddha nature, right? We've heard it so many times we consider it understood. And we only understand it, mind you. We only understand, we don't see. Because the one who sees is one who has realized the way. As for us, we've heard the monks teach so much that we just understand. I'll probably become a Buddha someday. It must be because I have Buddha nature, so if I keep practicing, I'm sure I'll become a Buddha. Because we've been taught so much. We have faith in that principle. But as for seeing it, do we see it? No one sees a thing. But in the time of never disparaging, this was even stranger. Imagine someone suddenly approaches you and says you will become a Buddha. You wouldn't believe it. You haven't been taught about it, you don't understand it, it doesn't seem realistic. And so, most people were annoyed. Or, if they were good-natured, they just assumed he was joking and casually dismissed it. But those who were easily annoyed felt irritated. Why was there this person who, every time he met them, planted such a fanciful, unbelievable hope? Today, as we talk, we're going to analyze this a little to understand it and apply it in our own lives. It's possible that after today's lesson, we still won't be enlightened. Even though we hear the words of an enlightened being, the one who said, "I dare not disparage you, for you will become Buddhas." We don't see this sentence as realistic. We don't see it clearly, we don't understand it. But because of our faith in the scriptures, we believe it. We don't dare to look down on it or object. But to say we see it clearly, that we truly believe it, we don't have enough strength for that, do we? Today, let's ask ourselves why he uttered that sentence and then spent his entire life going from one person to the next, saying it over and over. Why was he so incredibly enthusiastic? Today we will analyze that enthusiasm and then see how we should practice to follow his path. Because later on he became a Buddha. What was his name? The Bodhisattva Never Disparaging became a Buddha known as Shakyamuni. But at that time he spent a whole lifetime filled with a strange enthusiasm, meeting everyone and sowing the seed of hope. And the truth is, his enthusiasm came from what he saw. From what he saw, and he saw it within his very self. He saw within his very self the potential to become a Buddha. And he knew that all other people, how were they? They were the same. They would also become Buddhas. He was so overjoyed that he enthusiastically went around spreading that joy to everyone. But not everyone agreed with him. Not everyone sympathized with him. So he was opposed, scolded, and chased away. A few people were cheerful and just brushed it off. But not everyone understood. Today, let's try to explain his enthusiasm and his strange words. I'll give you an example. Let's say there was a house being sold very cheaply. Someone came and bought it for less than 1 billion dong, even though its market value was over 1 billion. For some reason, the owners were easygoing and sold it for cheap. The person who bought it was a woman who was originally Catholic but had started to follow Buddhism. After she moved in and was cleaning in the middle of the night, she got a text from the former owner. It said, "Sister, now that you're sleeping there, have you seen anything?" What does that mean? The house was haunted. It had a ghost that couldn't be driven out, couldn't be suppressed. They had no choice but to sell it cheap and leave. So that ghost must have been pretty fierce, right? Pretty fierce. So, the person who had lived there before, they had seen the ghost. That person then called and added, "At night, don't go into the kitchen, sister. Don't go into the kitchen." So what does that mean? The ghost is usually where? In the kitchen. But for people passing by the house, do they see anything? In the daytime, no one sees a thing. Only the person living in the house knows it's haunted. They see it with their own eyes. At night, they'd open the kitchen door and see a figure sitting there, clear as day. They'd see a large, imposing figure sitting there and wouldn't dare go in. The house would be filled with all kinds of noises, unsettling sounds. They invited monks to come and perform rituals, but nothing worked. They had no choice but to trick someone into buying it, selling it off cheap just to get away. But unexpectedly, they sold it to this lady. When she found out about the ghost, she made food offerings, chanted sutras praying for its liberation, and played recordings of Dharma talks for it to hear. And the ghost's response was quite frightening. She would play a Dharma talk, and when she got tired and turned it off, the ghost would turn it back on to keep listening. She came and told me, "The first time, I turned it off in the middle of the night because I was tired, and it immediately kicked my bed. I instantly understood. I had to turn it back on. I pressed the button, and while the ghost listened, I just went to sleep. It even came into her room. But after that, she said, it didn't kick my bed anymore. When I'd turn the player off, it would just turn back on by itself. Every single night was like that. So she just accepted it. And gradually, she came to feel that this being was just like her with nothing to fear. It was a person just without a physical body. So I came to love and cherish it, she said. I'd offer it food and play the chanting and Dharma talks. And then, 2 months ago, the feeling of another presence in the house completely vanished. What does that mean? It had been liberated. It had moved on. So, the person who lived directly with the ghost, they felt it, they saw it, and so they spoke about it. As for us, we don't see it, so we can't sympathize with that feeling, can we? Many people say, I don't believe in ghosts. Or they walk past that house and say, there's nothing there. But in reality, that phenomenon exists for those who can see it. And so they behave in strange ways. It's like in Hanoi. I often go there to teach. And whenever we drive down a certain road, I forget the name, the devotees in the car will point to a huge house on a large plot of land. They say, Venerable Sir, to this day. No one dares live in that house. Even government agencies abandoned it. They won't build on it, they just leave it standing there. Because anyone who moves in ends up dead. There are truly strange cases like that. So in life, there are things you have to see, have to experience firsthand to understand. Someone who hasn't seen it, hasn't lived it, cannot understand. It's the same with a person who has attained the first stage of sainthood, a stream enterer. Once a person attains that, their mind changes. They have a new way of seeing, a new way of living. And when they speak about it, those of us who are devoted to the way might understand them, but we don't see what they see. They describe their vision, and if we are intelligent, we can grasp the concept, but we cannot see it the way they do. This is the difference between one who is enlightened and one who is not. Often, when the Buddha preached, many people would attain the fruit of a stream enterer. What is that fruit? It's something, I don't know. But their consciousness transforms and they see something new. They see it clearly, tangibly, right before their eyes. What do they see? I don't know exactly. But they see with perfect clarity that this life is impermanent, a cycle of arising and ceasing. They see that with absolute clarity. As for us, do we see that now? We understand it, but we don't see it. We understand it because the venerable monks have taught us. They teach us that life is impermanent, that whatever has a beginning will have an end. We understand this intellectually. We can observe that trees grow green leaves, and then the leaves fall. A person is born, and then they die. A house is built, and then it falls into ruin. Everything follows the cycle of formation, abiding, decay, and emptiness. We observe it, we see it, we understand it. When the monks remind us, we understand. But to see it with wisdom, none of us have seen it yet. And because none of us have truly seen it, our hearts are still filled with afflictions, still filled with worldly delusion. Only when we go to the temple often, when we are taught by the monks, do we become sober. At that moment we realize, life is impermanent. I shouldn't be so greedy, so infatuated. But if we don't go to the temple regularly, we forget instantly. We go back out into the world, and if someone provokes us, we argue back. If there's a chance for profit, for gain, we greedily chase after it. We continue to be lost in worldly delusion. Am I right? That's why whoever goes to the temple often has fewer afflictions, less infatuation, less worldly greed. And whoever goes less often is immediately lost in delusion. But for the person who has attained the stage of a stream enterer, their mind sees this truth constantly. They don't need to go to the temple or be reminded. They themselves see it constantly. Therefore, their heart is powerfully directed toward the ideal of cultivation. It's different from us. We come to the temple and try to practice diligently. But the moment we leave, life pulls us away. For the one who is a stream enterer, the Dharma is always present in their mind. They see this truth so clearly. So they are always oriented toward enlightenment and liberation. And because of that intense ideal, it is certain that in some future lifetime, that person will become a fully enlightened arhat. That is why the Buddha said that a person who becomes a stream enterer has entered the stream of the noble ones. This person is guaranteed to attain arhatship. We don't know in which lifetime, but the direction is set, the causes have been fully sown. Because that is what they see. We haven't seen it yet. We only understand. And the gap between understanding and seeing is vast. It's the distance between an ordinary person and a noble one. A very vast distance. Almost all of us are merely at the stage of understanding, not yet seeing. The exception is for those who have entered deep meditation and realized the fruit of a stream enterer. They begin to see. And where does the seeing come from? It's a very strange kind of seeing. It is like this: when our mind enters a state of deep concentration, a state of stillness, and wisdom opens up, then we see. Please remember this. The mind must enter concentration and wisdom must open up. Only then do we see. Otherwise, it is still just understanding. Still just understanding. There's an old story from a large temple in China. There was a monk who would sit in meditation for 3 or 4 days at a time in deep concentration. So everyone in the community believed he must be enlightened. They reported this to the temple manager. But unexpectedly, it was the temple manager who was truly enlightened. Even though no one ever saw him sitting for days on end. The manager heard the report, went to meet the monk, and asked him a single question. The monk couldn't answer. He then went back to his room, sat in the full lotus position, and passed away just like that. He could depart whenever he wished. It was amazing. Afterwards, they held a cremation and collected a large pile of sacred relics. At the ceremony for the relics, the temple manager came and tapped on the urn on the altar. He tapped it and said, "So you could sit in meditation for days on end, pass away at will, and leave behind a pile of relics, but none of that is as good as if you had been able to answer my one question." What does that mean? He was pointing out that while the monk had attained deep concentration, his wisdom had not yet opened. He had not yet seen the way. Do you see how difficult the path can be? To be able to enter concentration is one thing, but to have the wisdom to see the Dharma is another matter entirely. There are people who can achieve deep concentration but have not yet attained any fruit of enlightenment. And then there are others who, unexpectedly, have their wisdom open and attain it. Take the fruit of a stream enterer. When you attain it, you see heaven and earth change, your mind changes, and you see the principle of cause and effect of arising and ceasing. With perfect clarity. From that point on, no one needs to remind you anymore. You see it clearly. And you see clearly that this path leads to Buddhahood. So, when the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging became enlightened, his mind changed, his perception of the world changed, and he understood, he saw within himself that the path was open, that he would become a Buddha. He saw it clearly. Before that, he didn't see it. But upon becoming a stream enterer, he saw it instantly. He saw with total clarity, if I walk this path, I will reach the goal of Buddhahood. He was overjoyed to see this potential within himself, and he knew that all other sentient beings, how were they? They were just the same. They would also be like that. And so he was filled with joy. It's like this. Sentient beings in this desire realm, we all have a particular affliction. We are in the desire realm, which means we still have sexual desire. In the higher form realm heavens, beings are free from it. But from the lower heavens down to the human and animal realms, it's all the desire realm. Beings have sexual desire. And when beings have sexual desire, there is a natural principle. A woman sees a man, is she captivated? You have to answer. A man sees a woman, is he captivated? Is he? All the women answered that a man sees a woman and is captivated. But when I ask if a woman sees a man and is captivated, the women become shy and don't answer. And I don't hear a word from the men. So, I'll ask again. For us beings in the desire realm, well, maybe I won't ask the older ladies, you're probably past being captivated. But I'll ask the younger people. A woman sees a man. Do you like him? A very clear, decisive, straightforward, and honest like. And a man sees a woman. Is he captivated? Do you like them? Like. See that little boy? He's only 4 years old and he says like. You see? Very smart. At 4 years old, he already answered clearly and correctly. So, in this desire realm, men and women are attracted to each other. Right? This is perfectly clear. Everyone knows it. And by exploiting this desire, we have depraved films and images, nude photos, lewd movies. Who watches that stuff? Those who are still attached to desire, they like to watch it, don't they? And why are images of nude women used? Because when men look at them, they feel very pleased. Why does a woman's body make a man feel pleasure? Why? Because it's desire. It's the natural desire of beings. This desire is innate in the body. So just seeing, especially a man seeing a scantily clad woman, stirs his desire. And that is a natural law for all beings in the desire realm, from the heavens all the way down. We are all affected by it. But when a person cultivates and attains a higher fruit of enlightenment, Say a non-returner or an arhat, the desire in their heart vanishes. It's gone. So now, when they see a woman, are they still captivated? The captivation is gone. At that point, they look and see only a walking piece of meat. Just a walking piece of meat. When you hear yourself called a walking piece of meat, does that make you sad? It does, right? But that is the truth. That is how the noble saints see it. For example, men are infatuated with women. What are they infatuated with? A beautiful face, right? And certain sensitive body parts. Before enlightenment, a man sees those parts as lovely, cute, stimulating. But when he attains that fruit, the desire in his heart naturally disappears. He looks and says, huh? That over there is just a piece of meat. What else is it? A piece of meat. And if that piece of meat is alive, it's rank. And when it's dead, what is it? Foul. The little boy, see? He says foul so clearly. Foul. So now that enlightened person starts telling others the human body is impure. There is birth, old age, sickness, and death. It's just a piece of meat. While it's alive, it's a walking piece of meat. When it's dead, it's a piece of meat lying there waiting to rot. When we hear that, is it true or false? It's completely true, isn't it? But we feel resentful. We don't want to accept it. Why? Because this piece of meat is very cute, isn't it? We feel hurt when it's criticized so harshly. Why do you criticize me like that? Calling me a walking piece of meat. Calling me impure, nothing but birth, old age, sickness, and death. My piece of meat is very lovable. When I was young, my husband wrote poems for me about how my hair was like clouds and streams, how he was lost in a daze just looking at me. That's what he used to say. So how can you have the heart, venerable sir, to now call me a walking piece of meat that's rank when alive and foul when dead? Right? But in truth, that is the seeing of a saint. A vision that appears when the desire in one's own heart has vanished. So when a person, through enlightenment, has their wisdom emerge and their heart become pure, they say things that we either don't understand or we only understand intellectually without seeing. That is why the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging, once he was enlightened, saw with total clarity. Oh, within me there is a path to enlightenment, to attaining the way to becoming a Buddha. And he looked at all other beings and saw they were all the same. And he began to develop a profound respect for everyone. Today, this is what we are learning. Today we are learning the practice of respecting everyone. To plant the cause so that one day we will become a Buddha, just like Never Disparaging. Before his enlightenment, he didn't respect everyone. Or if he did, it was just a polite, moderate respect. But when he became enlightened, he saw the path to Buddhahood within his own mind, and he understood that all sentient beings are exactly the same. So he developed a deep respect for everyone. From that moment on, he no longer dared to look down on anyone. That is the virtue of a noble one. A noble one, even at the first stage of a stream enterer, has already begun to possess that quality. The ability to respect everyone. And it was this very respect that nourished him, that propelled him forward until the day he attained the perfect fruit of unsurpassed right and perfect enlightenment. And now he sits on the lotus throne and we prostrate to him hundreds of times a day without ever growing tired, right? Why is that? Because he planted the cause of revering all sentient beings. And this reverence wasn't forced. It arose from the wisdom he had seen. His wisdom clearly saw that even though sentient beings might look deluded, greedy, and afflicted, hidden within each of them is the potential to attain the way. And it was precisely because he saw this potential in everyone that he revered them. This reverence came from the wisdom of a saint respecting all beings. And this created immeasurable merit for him and planted a seed of the most noble hope for all of us. Today we don't have his enlightenment, but we can see that he was right, can't we? From his enlightenment, a virtue was born. Respecting everyone. Now, we are not yet enlightened, but we can be wise. We can imitate his practice, which is, what? That's right, to respect all people. We imitate him, we also respect all people, and in doing so, we plant the cause to become a noble one. So, to become a noble one, what do we start with? We must respect everyone. We begin with the practice of respecting everyone, and in the future, we will become a noble one. Today, we talk about this. In our lives, our respect can be seen on 4 levels. First, there is valuing. For example, as Buddhists, we meet in the temple. We don't know each other, but just by seeing that this person comes to the temple, we value them, don't we? We value them because we think that anyone who sets foot in a temple must have a mind for the way, a fellow practitioner. They must have cultivated at least a little. Understanding this, we value them because we see it in ourselves. We come to the temple, we know how to practice, we have a mind for the way. So when we see a stranger who has also come to the temple, we value them because we understand from our own experience. That is the first level, valuing. The second level is respecting. This is a little higher than valuing. What is respecting? It's when we discover that the person has a good quality. For example, when we first meet at the temple, we simply value each other as fellow practitioners. But after coming for a while, one day you notice someone quietly going into the restroom to sweep and clean it. The head monk didn't ask them to, but they quietly grab a broom and water and clean the entire restroom so that it's comfortable for everyone. When you see that, you respect them. This is a higher level. Valuing is more of a sentiment. Respecting means we have seen for ourselves that this person has done something good. We realize I've been here at the temple all this time, but I haven't thought about anything but myself, wandering around, looking at the flowers, visiting the master. I completely forgot about the restroom. That uncomfortable place that everyone has to use but wants to avoid. If someone posed a riddle, what is it that everyone must use but everyone wants to avoid? What would be the answer? The restroom. That's right. You need to use it, but you want to stay far away. Yet here is a person who charges right in there to clean it. This person's ego must be very light. Their cultivation is superior to ours. So we have raised our feeling one step higher, from valuing to respecting. Has anyone gone to check on the restroom yet today? You went, and then you stayed far away, right? Has anyone gone in to clean it? Not yet. Now for the level higher than respecting, revering. What does revering mean? Revering comes when we have been around a person for a long time, perhaps as their student or just by being close to them. Over a long period, we witness that their good qualities, their wisdom, their virtue are stable and enduring. Then, the initial respect deepens into reverence. Reverence is something that grows over time. Then, the fourth and highest level is venerating. Veneration is extremely high and is reserved for whom? For the Buddha, for great bodhisattvas, for the highest saints. For them, we use the word venerate. So, these are the four levels: valuing, respecting, revering, and venerating. We must try to cultivate these four levels in our hearts towards others. At the very least, we should have what? Valuing. For someone we know has a good quality, we respect them. For someone we have known for a long time to be truly worthy, we revere them. And for the Buddha and the great saints, we venerate them. These are the four noble sentiments that the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging showed to all beings. Today, we recall his practice to learn this. How can we learn to value and revere everyone? If we can, our merit will increase enormously, and that is the path to becoming a Buddha if we are determined to practice. And it is the path to gaining immeasurable merit in the human and heavenly realms, even if we don't attain full enlightenment. In a future life, you could be reborn as a king or a great leader if, in this life, you can cultivate the practice of universal reverence. This is the practice we learn from the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. However, to be able to value and revere everyone, we must have a reason. We have to find a reason. Because if you just try to force yourself to revere someone, can you do it? No, you can't just force it. So we must find a reason. The reason for a great saint like Never Disparaging was clear. Having become enlightened, he could see. He saw that all beings were worthy of reverence, that all could become Buddhas. But as for us, we don't have that kind of sight yet. So we too must find a reason to revere everyone. What could that reason be? Can anyone tell me? To revere might be too high a bar. But every single person has at least one quality that makes them worthy of our appreciation, our esteem. Every person has something. And to see that something, we need wisdom. We don't yet have the saintly wisdom to see that everyone can become a Buddha. But we must open up our own wisdom now, to look at every person and find at least one lovable, precious quality. And to see that, we need wisdom. This is what we'll talk about now. How can we look at everyone and find a point to love and value, even a very small one? For example, when we look at ordained monks and nuns, what is the quality we revere? What is it about them that makes us love and revere them? Their virtue. What else? An ordained person has so many qualities for us to cherish. For instance, the very act of leaving home to ordain is something we find precious. We are attached to our families, unable to leave. That they dared to sever those ties of affection is something we deeply appreciate. that they confine themselves within the framework of monastic discipline, not indulging in the pleasures of the world but living an austere life of cultivation, already makes them far superior to us. There are countless reasons to revere an ordained person. And if, by chance, that person who seems ordinary on the outside possesses some inner realization, then oh, they are truly precious, aren't they? Immeasurably worthy of reverence. So, in the life and spirit of an ordained person, there are many hidden qualities worthy of our reverence. That is why we are taught to revere the Buddha and respect the Sangha. Tomorrow, in fact, I will be giving a talk on this very topic in Dongfat. Alright, so that's the ordained Sangha. Now, what about our fellow lay practitioners? What do we revere them for? We value them because they have a mind for the way, right? They know to come to the temple, to practice, to be vegetarian, to do good deeds, to keep the precepts. They may not be enlightened. They may still have afflictions and get angry sometimes, but the very fact that they have come to the Dharma means they are aiming for something higher. And for that, we value them greatly, don't we? Okay. Now, what about the motorcycle taxi driver parked on the street, the one who won't even step inside the temple to bow to the Buddha? How can we value him? Tell me. He drives us to the temple. We pay him and he waits outside until we come out to drive us home. We invite him inside to bow and he says no. Now, how do we value him? We still must find a point to value. We are forced to find it. What is that point? He may look a certain way, but he is hardworking, isn't he? Working hard for what? To support his family. He has a responsibility to his family. He is fulfilling his duty as a father and a husband. He may have his flaws, maybe he drinks or is a bit rough, but he is still a person with responsibility. He still has a good point. We walk down the road and see a farmer toiling in the fields. What is there to value? What is there? They are people who are living, contributing to life, supporting their families, right? All of these are points for us to value. Do you see? Okay. Now, the beggar sitting on the sidewalk. What is there for us to value? You have to figure this one out. And figuring this out requires real wisdom. There's a funny story, but let me just ask. A beggar on the street, what is there to revere? You must think until you find the answer. Because if you can't, you cannot practice this virtue of universal reverence. The practice of never disparaging means we revere everyone. So, the beggar on the street, how do we revere them? Tell me. Whoever answers correctly, I'll ask the head monk here to shave your head and ordain you on the spot. Hearing that, everyone gets scared and runs away. We have to find the answer ourselves. Do you need me to answer for you? Or should you go home and ponder it until it sinks in? Or shall I just tell you? Alright, I'll take pity and answer this one. But I'll ask another question for you to take home. That beggar, we know that to be in such a state means their merit has run out, right? In a past life, they must have done something wrong to now bear the consequence of having to depend on the charity of others, unable to earn a living for themselves. Their merit is gone. But in that very situation, that person has an opportunity to understand something, that they made a mistake. They have the opportunity to learn not to look down on anyone anymore. They have the opportunity to learn what it means to rely on others. Perhaps in a past life, when they had wealth, they looked down on everyone. Now, they must sit in the position of a beggar to learn how to value others again. And in that very moment of suffering, they are contemplating and learning a profound moral lesson. And that right there is a point that allows us to cherish them, isn't it? Okay, I answered for you. Now here's a question for you to take home and contemplate. What causes one sow to be reborn as a dog? When will you give me the answer? You can ask for the temple's address and mail me your answer after you've thought it through. What cause leads to rebirth as a dog? Most dogs were human in their previous life but committed a serious fault. Do you need me to answer? What does the little girl say? That person stole from the temple. Thank you, my child. Please sit down. You too? What do you say? That person did evil deeds and ate dog meat. Thank you, child. So bold to answer right away. Very good. But the truth is much deeper. Much deeper. We know the main characteristic of a dog. What is it? Loyalty, right? A dog's primary trait is loyalty. And this loyalty is genetic. It's a natural program in its brain. No one has to teach it. It is naturally loyal to its owner. We feed it, we pet it, and 3 years later, it will still remember us and greet us warmly. That is the nature of a dog, loyalty. So, what kind of karma does one sow to be reborn as a dog? The karma of betrayal. When a person who betrays others dies, the king of the underworld sentences them to be reborn as a dog, to learn the lesson of loyalty. The point I am making is this: we must use our wisdom to find a reason, any reason, to see something lovable and venerable in everyone so that we can revere them, right? No matter who we meet, we must try to find a good point to revere. And finding this requires our wisdom. And we must command ourselves, I must revere everyone. I must revere everyone. This is called Yoniso Manasikara in Pali, or wise attention. What does wise attention mean? It means a command we give to our own minds. We force ourselves to do something that aligns with the Dharma from the inside. No one else knows. So, when we practice the virtue of never disparaging, we must tell ourselves in our hearts, I will try to revere everyone. I will try to revere everyone. Can we do that? Please repeat after me. I vow to the Buddha, I will try to revere all people. Very good. From now on, say this phrase silently in your heart all day long. This is a mantra. I'm telling you, this is a mantra. And the great thing is, it's a mantra in our own language. The person who constantly repeats this phrase, wherever they go, negative forces will stay far away. This is a mantra that can dispel evil. I vow to the Buddha, I will try to revere all people. If you say it once or twice, it won't sink in. But if you say it every day, wherever you go, spirits and deities will respect and fear you. Your virtue will grow little by little. Your virtue will grow little by little. You could even meet a sick friend, wish for them to be well, and they will get well. Because you constantly repeat this phrase. Just keep saying it over and over, and it will suddenly become a spiritual power within your mind. Whatever you wish for someone will come true. Try it and see if I'm right. Okay? Try it. This is a mantra, a form of wise attention, a command you give yourself to achieve the virtue of never disparaging, universal reverence for all beings. Now for the second point. A person who reveres everyone, how do they live? How do they live, my child? A person who reveres everyone is always kind to everyone, aren't they? Always kind to everyone. They always serve everyone, right? Let's go back to the example of the person cleaning the temple restroom. When it's time for lunch, everyone is busy getting food, but you notice that person. You set aside a plate of rice and a glass of lemonade for them. Then you go and find them and say, Sister, I saved a meal for you. Please come and eat. You invite them to a proper table with a chair and a drink. Why did you suddenly do that? Because you already revere that person, right? That's it. When we revere someone, we treat them with kindness. We serve them with care, don't we? So, if we could revere everyone in this life, how would we treat them? We would always be kind. We would always want to serve everyone, right? So, from a mind of reverence flows the action of living kindly and serving others attentively, never again doing things superficially, perfunctorily, or with outward deceit. When you offer a glass of water, it contains all your affection. It's not a dismissive here, drink it or don't. When you offer a bowl of rice, it contains all your love, not a casual eat if you want, because now there is reverence in your heart for that person. For this reason, every word, every action towards others becomes an expression of care, kindness, and dedicated service. And if our whole life were like that, would our merit be great or small? Extremely great, right? A person who has realized and cultivated this principle of revering everyone will spend their life loving, serving, and being kind to all. Their merit will be very great. Very, very great. So great that in their next life, they might be reborn in a heavenly realm. And if they are reborn as a human, they will surely have a noble and high-ranking status. Is anyone here noble and high-ranking? Raise your hand so I can get your address. No one dares raise their hand, afraid I'll ask for their address. But it's like this. If in this life we are not yet noble and high-ranking, it's because in a past life we failed to cultivate what virtue? The virtue of revering everyone, right? So now in this life, let's try to cultivate this virtue of universal reverence so that in our next life we can be, what? Noble and high-ranking. That's it. Today we sit here under the roof of Hoitun Temple. Our status is still ordinary. Perhaps a few of us are noble, but they're hiding their addresses, so we won't talk about them. For the most part, we can admit we are still ordinary, because we didn't know how to cultivate the virtue of never disparaging. But today, before the sacred Buddha altar, under the warm roof of this temple, we have reminded each other of this Bodhisattva's practice. So let us make a vow to the Buddha in our hearts that from this day until the end of our lives and in all lives to come, we will follow the practice of never disparaging. We will revere everyone. And because we revere everyone, we will treat all people with kindness. And if we do that, our merit in the next life, and for countless lives after, will be very, very great. So great that it could lead to sainthood, to Buddhahood. That is the path that Never Disparaging walked. Now let's talk about our children for a moment. We give birth to our children and grandchildren. Do we want them to grow up to be successful? Of course, we desperately want that, don't we? Who wants their child to grow up to be a drifter, without a trade, without an education, a failure who can't find a job, or worse, does bad things and ends up in prison? No one wants that. Everyone wants their children to grow up, study well, have a good profession, and have prestige in society. If they're lucky, they become leaders or officials. If not, at least they can be teachers, doctors, engineers with a stable job to support themselves. That would be good enough. But does it always turn out that way? No. Some children grow up to be delinquents, to be failures. So what is the key to ensuring our children and grandchildren grow up to be successful? What is the key? It is precisely reverence. This is the key. When we ourselves cultivate the virtue of revering everyone, we will be successful and gain merit in this life and the next. It's the same for our children. If you want your child to grow up to be successful, you must teach them from a young age to know how to revere everyone, both in your presence and behind your back. We must monitor this and teach this in their words, their attitude, their gestures. They must show respect for their elders, especially parents, teachers, and older people. We must be very strict about this. We cannot allow them to say a single word that shows contempt. And for that to happen, what must parents do? They must set the example. But often, parents unwittingly teach their children to look down on others. The fault starts with the parents. How so? For example, you're close friends with your neighbor, who is younger than you. You might casually refer to him with a dismissive nickname like that nom fellow. Then you need to borrow a hammer, so you call your child over. Hey, go over to that nom fellow's place and borrow a hammer for me. When you call him that nom fellow, you are teaching your child to call your neighbor by that same disrespectful name. Does the child still revere the neighbor? No, they become disrespectful. They incur negative karma. Their merit is lost. When they grow up, they won't be successful. And it's our fault. It's because of the way we speak. So in that situation, what should you say? You should call him uncle, right? Son, could you go over to Uncle Nom's and borrow a hammer for dad? The title Uncle Nom, are you saying that for yourself or for your child? You are saying it for your child. You are modeling the proper term of address for your child. Parents must remember this. You must speak on behalf of your child, not just for yourself. For example, you should say, son, go tell grandpa. Not, hey, go tell my dad. You must use the title from the child's perspective. Another example, a teacher visits your home. You're 50 years old and the teacher is a recent graduate in her 20s. And she's your child's teacher. You might say to someone else, gosh, that little girl, I don't know if she's any good at teaching. Calling her that little girl teaches your child disrespect for their teacher. Your child's future could be ruined just because of how you speak. You must refer to her properly as the teacher or miss and speak with reverence to compel your child to do the same. Then your child will grow up with merit and be successful. So pay close attention. Imagine you're watching a movie with your family. You're 50. The actress on screen is 30. As you're watching, you start critiquing, gosh, that girl is acting so poorly today. You call her that girl. How will your child imitate you? They will also call her that girl. But your child is just a teenager. Calling a 30-year-old woman that girl. Their merit is completely lost. When a child is disrespectful to their elders, their merit is wiped out. And without merit, they won't succeed later in life. Their life will be a series of failures. And it's our fault. The fault of our own mouths. So, from now on, when you're watching a movie with your child, you must say, this actress. Or that actor. And then you can say they acted well here or poorly there. You can't just say, wow, that director is so weird, or that actor's smile is so ugly. Using disrespectful terms. You don't realize that your words are killing your child's future because you are teaching them to be disrespectful. Just your mouth. Harming your child for their entire life. Who here has been guilty of this? Raise your hand. If we're being honest, almost everyone would raise their hand. We've all done this, haven't we? So from now on, we must repent for this. Okay? Remember, we must teach our children reverence for all people, and it starts with our own speech. We must speak on their behalf, modeling respect, compelling them to respect everyone. Anyone, even the beggar on the street. Imagine you're walking down the street and a beggar approaches your house. You don't know if they're genuine or not. Your child runs in and says, "Dad, there's a beggar asking for rice." And you reply, "Okay, go scoop a can of rice and give it to him." If you use a dismissive tone, you kill your child's spirit. The child will just dump the rice in a bag and walk away, looking down on the person. But what if you said, "All right, son, please take a can of rice, put it in a bag for the gentleman, and remember to give it with 2 hands. Okay?" Just that one sentence elevates your child's life. That boy will grow up to be very successful, because if he knows how to respect even a beggar, his future will be bright. And that comes from parents who know how to teach. To teach reverence, that is the key to your child's success. This point is very, very important. And parents must protect the honor of those who are not present. For example, if someone isn't there but your child is, you must not speak ill of the absent person in front of your child. Because when you do, you teach your child to hold that person in contempt. Your child will lose merit. So as parents, we must never speak ill of the absent. We must always try to express our appreciation for everyone so our child will imitate us. And our child will learn that even behind someone's back, one should still be genuinely respectful. That is the merit that will save your child's life. We learn this from the Buddha. We must try to pass it on to our children and grandchildren so they may have merit. And remember to listen to them. Monitor their every word, because they may be polite in front of you but speak badly behind your back. Nowadays in schools, what do students sometimes call their teachers? They use disrespectful pronouns. "Ugh, he teaches so poorly. His class is so boring." They say this to each other. If you overhear this, you should discipline them severely. For what crime? For daring to use a disrespectful term for their teacher. They must be taught to regard their teachers as their own parents. That's the only way to raise them right. You can't just demand respect for yourself as a parent while allowing your child to look down on their teachers. That won't work. Once, the great leader Ho Chi Minh was visiting a school in his home province. He told the students, "You children must regard your teachers as you would your own parents." You see? A national leader paying attention to these small moral details. It is because of things like this that our nation was victorious. It truly is. So now, if we want our families to succeed, for our good fortune to last for generations, we must pay attention to this with our children. Teachers must be revered like parents, and all relatives and neighbors who are older must be respected. If not, the child must be strictly punished. And remember this, if a child is disrespectful to many people when they are young, what will their life be like when they grow up? It will be a failure. Please remember this formula for me. And if they know how to revere everyone, what will their life be like when they grow up? Successful. Just remember this formula. It is never wrong. Remember that. Now let's pose a larger problem. If the majority of children in our country grow up to be failures, what will happen to our nation? It will be destroyed, right? Because they are the future of the country. If 60 or 70% of our young people grow up to be failures, poor, destitute, unemployed, our nation will be ruined. It will collapse immediately because they have all failed. Therefore, every single child who succeeds in the future is a contribution to the success of our country, right? The success of our country. So if a large majority, 70 or 80% of our children grow up to be successful and glorious, what will our nation become? It will be glorious, wealthy, and powerful. So if we want our country to be successful and strong in the future, what must we do now? We must ensure that the majority of our children grow up to be successful. And to do that, what must we teach them now? To know how to revere everyone. This is the key to lifting up our nation. It lifts up their individual lives and it lifts up our entire country. But right now, this principle is being severely undermined. Children today are becoming insolent and rude. Behind their teachers' backs, they speak ill of them. Behind their own parents' backs, they speak ill of them. They speak ill of all adults. And so these children are slowly losing their merit. And you can be sure that they will fail in life. And if too many of them are like that, our country will be destroyed. Last night, I happened to see a short video clip. I saw a scene between a daughter and her mother. The daughter was speaking insolently, rudely, disrespectfully. The mother could do nothing because the laws in America, they don't allow you to discipline a child. The child is king. And looking at that, you know for certain that when that girl grows up, she will not be successful. She will get married and then get divorced. Her family will fall apart. She will be unemployed and unsuccessful. And she will contribute to the weakening of the United States. And this has been happening for the last 60 or 70 years. And today, America is suffering the consequences. Right now. And not just America, a whole series of European countries are starting to suffer the consequences of the generation from 60 years ago that was taught to be rude to their parents. Because the law protected them and allowed it. Now that generation has grown up, and at the age when they should be building their careers, they are not successful. Merit from their past lives brought them some success for a while, but the karma of disrespect from this life is now causing them to fail. And many people failing creates a chain reaction. Now, the countries of Europe and America are in a state of decay, of financial collapse and repeated failures. Have you heard this news? America is now drowning in debt. According to statistics, it owes over $14 trillion that it cannot repay. European nations have massive budget deficits. They are collapsing, and this has dragged the entire world down with them. Vietnam has also been affected. But can Vietnam escape this crisis? It depends on our government. If our government implements a thorough educational policy, from schools to families, that forces children not to be rude and disrespectful to their elders, our country can escape the downward trajectory of Europe and America. We can stand up and build a strong nation again. But if those countries don't promptly correct their culture and morality, if they continue to let children speak disrespectfully to their parents, then you can be sure that in the future, Europe and America will decline into poverty and hunger. That is the path that lies ahead. And it is certain according to the law of cause and effect. They are already experiencing the consequences. But they don't know why. They don't know why their finances are collapsing. It comes down to one thing: their laws protect children and allow them to be rude to their parents. If a parent touches them, the child calls the police to have the parent arrested. There has never been such a bizarre legal system. And yet they call it civilized. They don't realize that the karmic result of such a law is the collapse of their entire nation. And now the retribution is arriving. If you follow the news, you will see it. If Vietnam does not avoid the same mistake, we will also collapse. But we can see it coming, and we can start over. On our public platforms, in our newspapers, books, and on TV, we must ban films that show children being rude to their parents. Teachers must thoroughly teach children the virtue of respecting others, in every word. And children must teach each other. They must hold each other accountable. They must not say disrespectful things about adults behind their backs. Because what is said behind the back is what matters most. To speak disrespectfully behind someone's back wipes out all your merit. But if behind an adult's back you can speak words of respect, your merit becomes immense. This is the key to building our nation's future. Remember this. The prosperity or decline of our country depends on the morality of our children right now. It depends on whether they can learn to revere everyone. Now I want to talk about the term self-respect. We might say of someone who did something wrong, that person has no self-respect. What does that mean? Most people define self-respect incorrectly. They hear the term and think it means to respect oneself. But if you just respect yourself, what is that? That's ego. That's not a virtue, is it? But self-respect is a virtue. And because it's a virtue, it cannot be about ego or arrogance. So, to define self-respect as respecting oneself is wrong. The term really means this. A person with self-respect is one who knows how to guard their own virtue so as to not cause others to look down on them or be troubled by them. Please remember my definition. A person with self-respect guards their own dignity so as not to cause trouble for others. It is not about respecting yourself. Remember that. Now, let's talk about the Dharma. When does the Buddha's Dharma flourish? And when does it decline? The Dharma flourishes when there are many practitioners who attain the way, right? When we look around and see genuine, virtuous monks and nuns everywhere, our hearts are filled with love and reverence for the ordained Sangha. At that time, the Dharma is surely flourishing. But if we encounter ordained people who are not practicing properly, who are scandalous, and our hearts lose that reverence, the Dharma declines. So how can we ensure that many people within Buddhism can attain enlightenment? How? It all comes back to the practice of never disparaging. When ordained people, right from the beginning, know how to revere everyone, know humility, and restrain themselves according to the precepts, they are the ones who will attain the way in the future. But if a person enters the monastic life with arrogance, looking down on others, thinking, I am ordained, I am superior to lay people, that person will not attain the way. The one who will attain the way is the one who, though ordained, still deeply values lay people, because they are practicing the virtue of never disparaging. Of course, lay people should revere the ordained, but the ordained must also value the laity. They must never think, I am ordained, so lay people are beneath me. Never dare to think that. If we are monks living in a temple and we see every lay person who comes to visit with joy and love in our hearts, then we are the kind of ordained people who will attain the way in the future. You lay devotees who come to this temple, do you feel that the monks and nuns here value you? You do? Yes? That is a sign that the Dharma is flourishing. But if you came to a temple where the monastics were indifferent to you, would you want to come back? No, you wouldn't. And that would be a sign that the Dharma is in decline. So you can tell whether the Dharma will flourish or not just by seeing if the monks and nuns are practicing the virtue of never disparaging. When they are egoless and know how to revere everyone, it makes you feel joyful about the Dharma and want to come to the temple often. Then you know the Dharma will flourish, and those monks and nuns will attain the way in the future. I say in the future, and I don't just mean this lifetime. It could be many lifetimes from now. Why? Because on the path to Buddhahood, realization is never a quick thing. Anyone who tells you, practice hard and you'll get enlightened quickly, or you can achieve it all in one lifetime, or you'll be reborn in the Pure Land in this one life, is lying. Many people may get angry at me for saying this, but it is the truth. It's not the case that anyone who practices diligently and chants the Buddha's name for this one life will immediately be reborn in the Pure Land upon death. Their merit is not yet sufficient. The Buddha lands are glorious. Our merit is not enough. It's not that simple. And don't think that you can just sit in meditation for this one life and become enlightened. It doesn't happen that way. Remember, the path to Buddhahood is a journey of many, many lifetimes. The person who understands that they must practice for many lifetimes, and yet still perseveres, that is a true disciple of the Buddha. The person who hears it will take a long time and gives up, that person will just drift and sink in darkness. And the person who starts practicing and hopes, believes, or thinks they will get enlightened very quickly, that person is suffering from a delusion. Because there is no such thing as quick enlightenment. When you read in the scriptures about someone who met the Buddha and was instantly enlightened, or met a Zen master and had a sudden breakthrough, you must understand that this was not the fruit of a single lifetime. It was the result of countless past lifetimes of practice that culminated in that one moment. As for us, we should always think that our merit is still thin, our karmic conditions are not yet mature. Therefore, in this life, we must be extremely diligent, and know that this diligence must be maintained for many lifetimes to come. We must never dare to think we will attain the way quickly. Because anyone who thinks that has an arrogant mind, believing they have already practiced for many lifetimes. That arrogance damages their merit. So, what should our vow be? To practice with great diligence, while knowing that this diligence must be sustained for many, many future lifetimes. That person will practice well. And on this long path, we practice the virtue of never disparaging, trying to revere everyone. Because, in truth, the potential for enlightenment is hidden within every heart. Finally, we also hope for happiness for all of society. When is a society truly happy? Is it when it's rich with an abundance of money and material goods? Is that it? No. A society is happy when people know how to revere other people. What does that mean? It means the employer knows how to revere their employee. The employee knows how to revere their employer. The government official knows how to revere the citizens, and the citizens know how to revere the officials. When people mutually revere one another, that is a happy society. A society is not happy just because it is wealthy. So today, in talking about the virtue of never disparaging, we are talking about the key to enlightenment. We are also talking about the key to building a strong, prosperous nation in the future. We are talking about the key to the flourishing of the Dharma for generations to come. And we are also painting a picture of the very essence of a happy society, one in which people know how to revere one another regardless of whether they are of high or low status. When everyone mutually respects each other, that is a happy society. If we talk about building a world of great unity or a socialist nation, It doesn't mean building a society of material wealth. The most important thing is to build the virtue in people's hearts, so that everyone knows how to revere one another. Then all good things will naturally arise. And that is the true Buddha land. That is the true paradise. Today, by the grace of all the Buddhas, we have had the good fortune to meet here at Hoi Tun Temple to remind each other of the practice of the Bodhisattva Never Disparaging. Let us make a promise to ourselves that from now on, we will cultivate the practice of revering all people. Let us also remember our duty to teach our children to revere everyone so that their futures may be successful and bright. And let us dream of a world, a nation, a society that is peaceful and happy because everyone in it knows how to revere one another. May this world be at peace. May all beings be safe and happy. And may all beings fully realize the path to Buddhahood. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.